That's some great energy, Tina. Thank you. Let's just do mission accomplished. Thank you, Lindsay and Tina. Thank you, Travis. Thank you very much. So we've been down the road of a process, and we had about 60 people come last Wednesday, and it was a very awesome experience as we started this co-creation process. And if you have missed that opportunity, it's not the same as going through it, but there's some pamphlets over on the events table that you can grab one to know, just what was talked about on Wednesday in a general sense. And then we had some activities on Friday and Saturday, and if you notice these these Post-it notes all around, that's some great jewels in there. So I encourage you to, grab those. And so I believe all of you know how special it is for us to have Reverend Kathy here with us. And she's spoken with us on many occasions, and we were so happy to find out that she is certified in this process called co-creation from the home office. And so it was without hesitation we picked her, to be with our community, and we just love her to death. And so I would like her to come up and share all the good stuff she has for us.
Good morning. Good morning. So glad to see all of you here. Thank you. I'm in my minister disguise. It's a good one, don't you think? All right. Just a moment here. So I'm delighted to be here with you, and thank you so much for coming today. And we have just completed, as Rick said, completed these days of the co-creation process. And it has been deep and important work to set the consciousness for your new minister. And before I talk to you more about the process, I would just want to honor your leadership here. And I'd like to have Reverends Michael, Juanita, and Donna stand so that we may honor them. And you can stay standing for a moment. And our ministers in training, Nicole and Rick. I don't know if Nicole is here. Wonderful. Your Board of Trustees, would you please stand, or your core council, please stand, all the members there. Now stay standing for a moment. And the licensed practitioners of your community, would you stand? And I want to honor also Julie, the administrator. I don't know if Julie is here, but let's acknowledge her. So this is your leadership team. They're doing a wonderful job, and thank you very much for standing up, everybody. I just acknowledge you for your support. So my intention here today is to share with you a bit about our process and to reflect on where you are now in the process and really what is yours to do. And we're going to read aloud the Sacred Covenant, which is the fruit of the work that was done for this weekend, and then talk about what's next for you. So on Wednesday evening, as Rick said, we had, about 60 people here. Many of you were there. And we came together to begin the co-creation process. And we discussed the principles of co-creation. And actually, if you were in the process on Wednesday, would you stand? Great. Fantastic. Let's acknowledge these people for their commitment. All right. And there were two main themes that we worked with: the power of group agreement, and also that if we have, that to have a new experience, we have to have a new realization. And as we began to do the work of the co-creation process, we are honoring this understanding that we all carry within us a minister inside. And it's formed out of the past experiences that we have had, the pluses and the minuses, and we will tend to outpicture the experience that we've had before. It tends to show up in our experience. In other words, we see a new minister through the film of our former beliefs. And we project those, we tend to project those on any minister who comes into our space, so we tend to recreate an experience over and over again. And so one of the processes that we did was we did an upgrade process. People went within to think about the experiences that they had or the associations with ministers of the past, and then an upgrade process to come to an up-leveled idea. And then we did some healing work on the fear to faith process, where people began to understand their experience of the past and what they bring to this present moment. And what we tend to do out of our experiences of the past is to recreate the same old again. And so some powerful work was done, and you'll see many of the sheets around the room that we did, particularly on the Friday, Saturday experience. I'm going to stop for a moment because I'm slightly disconnected here. It's funny, I feel like I'm saying something entirely different than I said in the last service. Is that true? Well, it's okay. And so, where do I want to take this? So the group did some wonderful work to begin the process, mainly a deep and powerful process to see what it is that we all bring to the experience of a new minister. The Friday evening and Saturday group was a group of 12, and I'd like to ask the group of 12 to please stand. And so these people worked not without you, but on your behalf. And they were invited because they represent different segments of your community, and they were here doing the work. So let's just take a moment to acknowledge them. Thank you. We do work in a group of 12 because it speeds up the facilitation. If we tried to have everybody there, it would be a very, very different kind of process. And what we came up with was a sacred covenant, which you'll have the opportunity to read together in just a moment. And what it is it's not a wish list for a new minister. It is a list of spiritual attributes that is really more about a spiritual vision for your new minister. And what is crucial is that we have to embody and realize within us the qualities that we want to experience in a new minister. Does that make sense to you? We actually have to acknowledge and embody within ourselves what it is that we wish to experience on the outside. And so your group of 12 did a lot of work to bring forth the sacred covenant, which you will have an opportunity to read in just a moment. The idea being that we attract what is like our thought. I want you to know that these 12 worked very committedly, and they worked not without you, but on your behalf. And this is a powerful and important time in the life of your community that you are welcoming in a new minister. And we honor everyone who has served this community. We did a powerful time of praising and raising everybody who had ever served this community, because they've all exactly had their perfect place. But we're here to help welcome in newness. So in so many ways, Reverend Josh is missed, yes? Yes, and he did a wonderful job. And yet now is the time to welcome in your next wonderful leader, who will also do a fantastic job. So in a moment, we are going to actually stand and read the Sacred Covenant. And it is intended to create within you the experience of your new minister that will help call that person to you. And you will notice that some of the statements are actually created as I am statements, because what's really important is that you have to embody, this is a pure science of mind, that you have to embrace and embody that which you wish to attract. Does that make sense to you? That we have to have the mental equivalent inside of us in order to attract what is like our thought. This is a very spiritually mature process. I think often what we want to do is just kind of fill out an order form to the universe and say, dear God, please provide this person just the way I want him or her to be. And we're actually working on a much deeper level in this process, and it is about you becoming that which you would like to have an experience in your new minister. Because only what we experience on the inside can we manifest on the outside. We say the truth known is demonstrated. So the covenant that we're about to read declares how you see your experience of your new minister unfolding in time and space. In other words, how Spirit is going to move through you to call into this space the new minister who will also love you and serve you and support you in your divine unfoldment. And so you have your covenant in your packet there, or in your program, and if you would please stand, we are going to read it together. All right. And then after we read it, I'll invite you to sit silently for a few moments. Are you ready? Yep. All right. You're speaking into being your new minister. Here we go. There is only one life. This life is good. This life is God. This life is my life now. In knowing that I am one with the life that is God, I therefore know that I am one with all of its blessed expressions, which includes the presence of a new minister for my beloved jewel by the sea. Because I know that the highest purpose of my new minister is to glorify God, I therefore know that my new minister is a revelation of God as wholeness. I further know that my new minister is the fulfillment of that which has been promised by God, for it is written, "We see a world in which every person lives in alignment with their highest spiritual principle. All human endeavor is to find such an inward wholeness that all sense of fear, doubt, and uncertainty vanishes. As I stand in agreement with my beloved community, I see my new minister revealed before me as a wise and loving presence, God's consciousness in expression. I now intend to experience my new minister in full cooperation and agreement with my community, knowing this truth about myself, for I am inspired to live as love in the expression of wholeness. I am awakening the wisdom within me. I am applying the power of love through wisdom. I am connecting with, loving, and serving our local communities. I am creating an inclusive, loving environment for individuals and families and a thriving youth program. I am exploring the mystical teachings of different traditions. I am fostering an elevated music program that aligns with the message. And we go to the bottom here. As I now accept the highest expression of a new minister into my life, I know that they are revealed in a way that will glorify God and serve the highest and greatest good of all who are touched by their presence. I am grateful. God is gracious. Amen. Nice. We just sit in the silence for a moment. And together we say, and so it is. And so I don't know if you can feel it, but you have just spoken your new minister into being. Can you feel it?
Yes.
Powerful. Powerful. So now you are formally in a time of change. And you have been in a time of change, but now it kicks up a notch, as who says that? Emerald, right? And I have three invitations for you. That first of all, you come into agreement with each other around this sacred covenant that you just read. Sacred means holy, and covenant means agreement. And that you allow yourself to align with the words that were spoken here. Your group of 12 did not work without you. They worked on your behalf, and they are a representative group of your community, and they represent various groups within the congregation. And I want you to know that they took their responsibility very deeply, and you are here with all of us. It's just a little easier to facilitate 12 than a couple of hundred, so you get the idea. And so it is to come into agreement to let your heart say yes. And what I would invite you to do is put this sacred covenant, and there's room for you to fill in 2 of your personal intentions. So, and write it as an affirmation, an I am affirmation. It is done in that form because it's important for you to affirm that which you wish to experience. The I am statements in what we read began first as statements about your new minister. That person will inspire you to live as love in the expression of wholeness. That is awakening the wisdom within everyone. That is applying the power of love through wisdom. That is connecting with, loving, and serving our local communities, creating an inclusive, loving environment for individuals and families, and a thriving youth program, exploring the mystical teachings of different traditions, and fostering an elevated music program that aligns with the message. This reads as I am statements for you so that you begin to embody that within you. It's no longer about ordering a minister who's going to do everything that you hope he or she will do. It is about everybody doing it together. Can you feel that? It's a very, very different approach. This is a very different process than many people expect it to be, but very deep and very spiritually based. Every single moment of this process was surrendered to Spirit for the greatest good. And so you are invited to come into agreement to read this every day, to put it up on your mirror in the bathroom or someplace that you reliably are on a regular basis, and to say yes. Because as the group works together in group mind, and I'll speak a little bit more about the power of agreement later, that is when things begin to happen. It's very easy in a time of change for people to pull in different directions. Here is your great opportunity to stand together around a greater good that you are accepting. So that's the first invitation to you, is come into agreement. The second is that you honor the mystery of this process. You are not where you were, and you're not where you're going. Yes? So it's not how it was, and it isn't yet how it's going to be, and so you're in a state that I like to call firmly planted in midair. And enjoy the feeling. It's a little bit like free float, and yet the firmness of faith is under you. You're standing in deep faith. So you are in a process now officially that leads to the revelation of your new minister, and you don't know who it is yet, and you don't know how it's going to be. But I know that in the reading of this covenant, and it happened in the first service too, there is already an energy and a message and a vibration that is going out. And somewhere, a minister is getting the idea of, I think I'm going to make a move. It's a mystery. It's a mysterious, in a sense, and mystical process. Mystical meaning all about oneness, and that really across time and space, you will be calling in the new minister who is the right one for you. And so all there is to do is to float with the mystery at the moment, enjoy the feeling, and it's to take one step at a time. That's all you can ever do, is take the step that you're on. Have you noticed? Even though we try to see way far ahead, we can only take the step that we're on, one step at a time, and your sacred covenant is the guide. And every time you read it and you let your heart say yes, and you fill in your own intentions so that it's personalized for you, that is what begins to attract absolutely the most wonderful person to you. So let's do these affirmations together, and I'd like to have us say them 3 times. The first one is, the only presence active is love, the only power active is good. So let's say together, the only presence active is love, the only power active is good. The only presence active is love. The only power active is good. And one more time. The only presence active is love. The only power active is good. I like that. The second one is from Emma Curtis Hopkins. She says, there's good for me and I ought to have it. All right? So writing in the 1880s. So let's say that together. There's good for me and I ought to have it. 2 more times. There's good for me and I ought to have it. And again, there's good for me and I ought to have it. Now let's say there's good for us and we ought to have it. There's good for us and we ought to have it. Fantastic. And the last one is Ernest Holmes' statement. And in this statement, in ways that we don't realize, he set our whole spiritual movement in motion. He said, there is only one life. This life is good. This life is God. This life is my life now. And he linked the good life of God in our personal life in a way that had never been done before. So let's say that one together. There is only one life. This life is good. This life is God. This life is my life now. And again, there's only one life. This life is good. This life is God. This life is my life now. And the final time, there is only one life. This life is good. This life is God. This life is my life now. Nice, huh? And so it's an expression of the good life of God who is on his or her way to you. So there's a poet by the name of David Whyte, W-H-Y-T-E. I don't know if you're familiar with him. I like him so much. And he came and spoke at a conference, one of our conferences one time. And he was saying that whenever there's something that we want to manifest in our life, some new level of good, that a part of us has already gone ahead and it stands in the place of fulfillment. And that part standing in the place of fulfillment looks back to us in present time and calls to us to cross the territory. You like that? I like that. And the opportunity is to cross the territory in full faith that a part of you is already in this place with your new minister, having a great old time, and all there is to do is to walk one step at a time in the direction and keep your eyes focused on the good that is calling you. I like that very much. So you might just close your eyes for a second and imagine that you're already standing in that place and that the new person has come. And guided by the sacred covenant and the deep realization within all of your hearts, this person has come to love and to serve you and to do the very best he or she can to support you in the highest truth of your being. And let's say, and so it is. Wonderful. So the third invitation to you is to embrace the change, to actually let change in. And change is always happening, but we're really clever beings, and we find really interesting ways to resist the change that we know is going to happen anyhow. I realized a number of years ago for myself that I really love change. I just don't want anything to be any different. So. Right? Sometimes we like change as a concept more than we like change in the reality, but everything's always in a state of change. And so it's important for us to let it in, to open up our hearts to newness, to open up our minds to newness, to let the change happen. And to see yourself, to allow yourself to experience yourself as an open place that is receiving newness. So right within your heart, an open place that is receiving this great good of a new minister coming across time and space to love and serve you. Right. And so for me, that brings up the contemplation of what kind of mind do we bring to change. And so there are two stories that I want to share with you, coming out of two different traditions. And the first one is called the parable of the sower. It comes out of the Middle East. And so the story is this. The sower, which is like the sowing of S-O-W-E-R, a sower went out to sow seeds. And some of the seeds fell by the wayside, and the birds of the air devoured them. And some of the seeds fell on stony ground where there was just a little bit of earth. And so the plants sprang up, but the sun withered them, and they died. And some of the seeds fell on thorny ground where there was soil enough for the plants to grow, but the thorns choked them off. And some of the seeds fell in good, deep, rich soil. And the plants rooted, and they grew and multiplied 30, 60, 100-fold. So this is a teaching that's pretty old and coming again, as I said, out of the Middle East, that is about what kind of mind do we bring to change? What kind of mind do we bring to anything? The wayside mind is hard and resistant and impenetrable and is stuck in the past and does not allow anything new to take root. The stony soil is a mind that has a little bit of spiritual awareness, a little bit of soil for the rooting of a plant, but no spiritual practice, nothing that deepens the growth. And so the plants sprout up but wither and die from the heat of the sun, which we could say the heat of life. The thorny ground has deep, rich soil, but it's the kind of ground that is filled with negativity. That the negativity of the past, the negativity of criticism, chokes off anything new that wants to sprout. And of course, then there is the good, deep, rich soil, which is the mind that is open, that is creative, that is willing to allow newness to take root and to begin to grow. And so the question always for each one of us in any kind of change is, what kind of mind are we bringing to this change? It's funny, I'm seeing an image of a friend of mine, Reverend Sandy Scott, a dear colleague of mine, said that in religious science, the hood ornaments on our cars should be reaching for our good and choking ourselves at the same time, which is a little bit amusing but kind of sad. And you don't have to have it be true for you if it isn't. In other words, very often we reach for our good, but then we have qualities of mind or heart that keep our good coming from us, and we want to take the hand off the throat and go in the direction of our good. So that's the first story for you. What kind of mind do you bring to this time of change? The second story is a Zen story, so it comes out of the East. A very famous teaching story about a Zen master, and one day a student came to visit this very famous Zen master, and the master began to make tea. And so as they sat at the little tea table and the master began to boil the water and put the tea in the cups and all of that, the student started to talk. And the student began to talk and talk and talk and talk. All the while, the master is patiently making the tea. And when the tea was ready and the student is still talking, the master began to pour the tea. You know how little those cups are, right? So the master begins to pour the tea, and the student keeps talking, and the tea came up to the top of the cup and began to spill all over, and the student's eyes are getting bigger. And finally, he leapt away from the table and said, "What are you doing? The cup is full." And the master said, "How do you expect me to teach you anything when your mind is filled with what you think you already know?" Yeah. So you have two stories from two different traditions that are really about the same thing, which is how open are we? How open are our minds and our hearts for this change that very much wants to happen? So newness wants to take root here. You know, Reverend Josh was called to a new place, and we celebrate that with him, even though I know there's sorrow about his leaving. And yet the change is upon everyone here. And the question is, how do you make the best of it? How do you allow openness within your heart and your mind so that there's a huge, open, wonderful energy? I have been to your community many times. You are a deeply loving community. You have a high sense of family. And you have a commitment to living the spiritual life. Your group, your 50 were wonderful, or 60 people were wonderful to work with, and the 12 were just like heaven, because they are deep and rich soil supporting this process. And so it's how does everybody open up their mind to the change that wants to happen. So let me share with you. And so part of it is being open, fertile soil for newness, but also emptying your cup of all of the previous thoughts, experiences of the past, so that you're ready and willing to have a new experience. So here is your process going forward. A selection committee will be identified here, a small group of people who will actually be the selection committee. They will request from our home office in Golden, Colorado, a candidating packet and fill that out with all the information that is necessary. The information about your center, how long you've been in operation, the number of practitioners, the number of members, all of that will be published on the CSL website that ministers get into in an area called the Open Pulpit. And so any minister who is looking for a new position goes to the Open Pulpit, and some of us who are just curious look at it too. So you'll all be looking for your profile just to see it there. And in the reading of that and finding out about you, and your sacred covenant will be there. Your sacred covenant will be there. People will begin to apply. Your selection committee will vet them. and invite those whom they think meet your sacred covenant and would be excellent for this community. You'll invite those people to come and speak on a Sunday and do a workshop, and there will be a selection process among all of you and a way to vote for who you like. And that's how it goes. And pretty soon your new minister will be here. Yes, we do have a Q&A this afternoon, but I'll take one question.
Question, what the vetting process was?
I don't know, because they'll be letting you know that. Yeah. They will probably see, they should be measuring the candidate's package to the sacred covenant and the other ideas that your core council will have about the talents and abilities they want to see in your minister. Okay, so they'll be going through that. This is your opportunity to trust your leadership. To trust your leadership. That's what I'll say about that. And so in the meanwhile, there is, and if you're not trusting them, then have a conversation with them. How about that? So your job in the meanwhile is to read your sacred covenant on a daily basis. Because every time you read it, if you let your heart say yes, you're going to be deepening the consciousness that calls in a person who is in alignment with all of the things that were stated there. You will have your own personal intentions that you're adding in. And so the opportunities are quite wonderful. This new minister is a seed that is looking to take root in your community. And so your opportunity is to prepare your open mind and your open heart and to do the consciousness work. What do you think? Keeping your mind, yes, thank you. Keeping your eyes on the good that you have claimed, that this is a minister who is so happy to come and love and serve you, a minister that you can relate to, that you are loving and being served by, and that there is something so much greater than the sum of the parts. It's just the outworking of consciousness and deep intention and love. So let's take a moment and close our eyes. So just taking a nice deep breath, letting it go. Let's have a nice exhale, a nice sigh on the exhale. Remembering that truth, if there's only one life that is good, that is God, that is the life of each one of us here, as it is the life of this beloved community, the Seal Beach Center for Spiritual Living. And so what I am knowing and accepting is that across time and space, the message has already gone out by the reading of this sacred covenant, that there is a light and an energy, and ministers in different places are getting the idea that they are to submit their packet and to come and to be right here. What a beautiful place to be in this jewel by the sea. And so what I know that this is a process that is mediated by Spirit for the greatest good. I accept for each one here a profound trust that Spirit is in action, that the past is gone, the conclusions of the past are released, and that there is a standing in the openness of the present moment as good soil, ready to receive the seed of newness. And so I simply give thanks for this and accept at the level of Spirit, the new minister is already here, and there is great jubilation in the King Queendom right here. Great jubilation in the domain of Spirit right here at the Seal Beach Center for Spiritual Living. And so just take a breath on that into your heart center. And let's practice some agreement. And together we say, and so it is, and so it is, and so we let it be.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Lindsay. So that's all we need to do, right? It's just remember we are one, and it's all done. Just want to thank you, Reverend Kathy, for us, and especially for me, and I don't know if others feel the same way, but you bring a clarity of principle to us that we may have forgotten or not understand, and you bring a clarity of process to us as we find our new minister, and you bring a clarity of love. So a lot of clarity there. Thank you very much.